So today I'm going to talk to you about how to do cash for keys the right way, okay? Cash for keys is a term that we use in the real estate industry, and it's really about trying to get a tenant out by giving them some money in order for them to leave the property, okay? And it's probably the number one litmus test that I do when I've talked in the past to people that are looked to buy property and wanted me to help them. It's the number one question I'd ask them to see if they were fit for being a real estate investor, okay? And the conversation went something like this. Hey, Mr. Potential Investor Owner, let me set you a scenario. Let's say that you've got a tenant that's moved in and maybe they've been there for a week or two or a month or whatever, and then they stop paying rent. And if I come to you and say to you, hey, Mr. Owner, I need $500 or $1,000 to get that person out, how would you feel? And I would watch their response. And you'd get a huge range of reactions, but it would go something like this for a lot of people. It would be like, well, why? Why would I have to pay them? I mean, they owe me rent. I provided them a place to live. I mean, I looked after it. They owe me. What? You want me to give them money even though they were the ones that owe me? No way. You take them to court, you evict them, you go after them and get everything that's owed to me because this is not fair. And as soon as I saw that, you know what I did? I put my hand over the desk, before COVID, now it's fist bump. But back then, and I'd shake their hand and say, look, I'm really sorry. Thanks for your time. I can't do business with you. And they'd be shocked. Like, what do you mean you can't do business with me? And it's like, look, being an investor is not about emotion. I'm not saying you don't feel emotion, but you can't make emotional decisions. It's a numbers game. And so ultimately, if you don't know how to deal with tenants the right way and how to make dispassionate decisions, you will lose. And my goal is in anything that I do, I don't want people to lose peace. I don't want them to lose sleep over what they're doing. Because yes, making money is fun and having money is great. Don't get me wrong, it's great. But if you have to trade money for peace and sleep and rest and stress, that is a poor trade, I promise you. And it's only people that haven't made money that think that money is going to solve their problems. No, money brings a whole host of other problems. And so don't think that money is going to solve everything. And I'd never advocate anyone, if they're peaceful or if they've got rest, to trade that for money, okay? And so I talked to these potential landlords and I'd say, I can't do business with you. And they said, why? And I said, look, because anytime something happens, especially in certain segments of the market, you're going to feel like it's unfair. And you know what? I agree with you. It is unfair. But guess what? It doesn't matter. Unfair doesn't matter. What matters is, did you make money or did you lose money, right? This is an investment. How you feel about it is irrelevant. I used to work for a bank years ago, and I spent 3 months working in their complaints department, okay? And all I did was manage these higher level complaints, right? So these are ones that went to what's called an ombudsman, which is like a third party group that makes decisions on certain cases between an organization and one of its customers. And we had certain rules in place that basically said, look, if the claim from the customer is less than a certain dollar amount, like let's say $500, if it's less than a certain dollar amount, we just pay it, right? We don't even argue the point, right? So, and the reason for that is the bank had realized that it's time to make an economic decision, because every time that we referred a case to the ombudsman, the bank would have to pay. And there was different levels depending on complexity, but I think the initial review was somewhere around $500. It was something like that. So just for them to review it, whether you were right or wrong as a bank, you had to pay them to review the case. And then they would make a decision either in your favor or in the client's favor. But irrespective of the decision, the bank would still have to pay that $500. And then it was, $800, $1,000. I think it went all the way up to $15,000 for really complex cases where they had to get, lawyers involved and expert witnesses and whatever else, right? But the bank looked at it as a commercial thing. It's like, look, we do business. We have thousands, tens of thousands of customers. Sometimes things will go wrong. But if a customer's coming to us and claiming that we've done something wrong, yes, we can look at the facts of the case. But let's look at what the customer's asking for. What's it going to take to fix it? And so I was really successful in that role. And the reason I was successful is what I would say to the customer is, Mr. Customer, I understand that you feel this way. I understand that some things have gone wrong. What would it take to make this right? Do you know in 50% of the cases, all the customer wanted was an apology? All they wanted was for someone to acknowledge that the bank had made a mistake. They didn't want any money, right? But the bank didn't take that perspective, right? And the people that they'd spoken to until they got to me had no understanding of this, right? Like they would call up because their account was overdrawn by $30. and they talk to someone on the helpline and they'd say, well, Mr. Customer, you overdrew your account by X amount of dollars, so you got a $30 penalty. It's in page 6 of your customer agreement, and blah, blah, blah. So they'd get upset, they'd talk to the manager would say the same thing, they'd go round and round and round. Eventually it would land on my desk. And this customer had spent goodness knows how long, weeks. Now they're really angry, right? And so they've contacted all these parts of the bank, and now it's sat on my desk and I've got to deal with it. And remember, this is a $30 fee, right? How much time and effort and money has the bank spent in labor cost to deal with this issue? And so I just pick up the phone and say, Mr. Customer, what's it going to take to fix this? And they would just say, I can't believe that it's taken this long to get to someone that understands. And I'd say, look, I totally get it. And I'm really sorry, and we should have just waived that fee for you. You've been a great customer, and they'd turn around and be happy, right? Other times, maybe they wanted a financial thing. Maybe it's just waive me the $30. Well, just waive the $30, right? But we don't empower people to think that way. We think in terms of fairness. But the banks, what they got to is they just made a decision that, anything under $500, we just pay it. Even if the customer was wrong, even if the customer was trying to cheat us, even if the customer was doing something that we knew we were in the right. But the bank realized that, hey, you know what? If we try and fight them on this, it's going to cost us more than if we just accepted it and it was just the cost of doing business. And if that doesn't feel good to you, if you're not okay with that, you're going to struggle to make money in real estate. And that's because tenants will do the wrong thing. Tenants will try and cheat you. Tenants will try and steal from you. Tenants will lie to you. It's just how it is. I'm not saying it's right, but it's just how it is. And unless your mindset is one of, this is a cost of doing business, it's going to be difficult for you to make money in real estate because you're going to make emotional decisions that are actually going to cost you more in the long term. Think about it. For me to evict a tenant, right, I have to go and take the tenant to court. I have to give them various notices before I can go to court. So now they know that there's an issue, right? I've let them know, like, hey, we're going to take you to court. We're going to evict you. What do you think the tenant does as soon as you say that? They stop paying rent. So now I've got no income coming in. Court dates, depending on where you live, can take 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks. I don't know how long it's going to take. Then I go through the court process. Then I have to be able to get a sheriff to come and evict them. And then depending on where you live, there's other rules and process. It may take me 1, 2, 3 months to get that tenant out. And because it takes that long, you've lost rent during that whole time. Even if you win the case, even if you were right, if that tenant has no money, what are you going to do? You can't collect anything. You're not going to go and pursue them for a few $1,000s. It's just not worth it. Legally, it's not worth it. Right? And so the best thing to do is look for an opportunity for cash for keys. And so here is how I would approach it. I'd say, hey, Mr. Tenant, look, I'm sorry that this didn't work out. I'm really, again, you're trying to get the best situation for you. You're not worried about what's right and wrong and what's fair. You're worried about how to make the best out of this situation. So I'd say, look, Mr. Tenant, I'm really sorry. Maybe we messed up. Maybe, the owner, or if I'm the owner, maybe there was something about the property you didn't like. I'm really, really sorry. But I want to help give you the best outcome. So here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to help to pay to put your stuff in storage until you find another place so that you're not inconvenienced. So I'm going to pay for a week or 2 or 3 or a month or 2 months of storage. And if you can do me a favor, when you leave, I would just ask that you leave the house broom swept. Nothing else, just take your stuff out and just leave it broom swept. And on the day that you're ready to go, we'll agree a date. I will come and I'll give you $500 to help you on your way, or $1,000 or whatever it might be. And then most tenants, if they know they're going to be evicted eventually, most tenants will go for it. And so I've spent $500 or $1,000 getting them out of there. Maybe I've spent another couple of $100 on storage, but then I'm done. And I can get them out in a week or 2 or 3, as opposed to in 3 months. And so the difference is it might cost me $1,500 or $1,000 or $500. I've had tenants leave for $200, right? You don't know. It depends on the tenant, the area, and all that. But that's the decision. And so then when I can do that, I can get the tenant out, and you actually make more money that way versus trying to drag them out kicking and screaming. They may leave a bunch of junk behind. They may destroy the property on the way out. And then what? Now what do you do? It's going to cost you more to fix it because you wanted to do what's fair or to do what's right. Again, I get the emotional side. Believe me, I get it. I've been through it. But if you can take a pragmatic approach towards your rentals, understand that the tenants, generally speaking, hold the power in the relationship, whether you realize it or not, whether they realize it or not, then you can get a better outcome by employing some of these different strategies. So I hope that helped. See you next time.